Of every world record in Left 4 Dead 2 speedrunning, the luckiest one by far has to be Charlastic's 942 on Dark Carnival. While the level of play was out of this world as to be expected, the stars also just so happened to align for this run. I'm going to be breaking down and explaining the miraculous luck involved with getting this world record, but in order to do so, I'm going to need to break down what makes speedrunning Dark Carnival so luck-based. Left 4 Dead 2 is an amazing game, and each campaign in the game has its own speedrun. These runs are known as IL speedruns, or individual level speedruns. Each campaign consists of multiple maps, usually somewhere between 2 and 5. Speedrunners take these campaigns on solo, utilizing bots, b-hops, and a little bit of luck to get the best times that they can. The category is called Any Difficulty, because you're allowed to vote to change the difficulty whenever you want. Primarily, this is used to set the game to Expert so you can kill the bots, and be faster. Then, you set it back to Easy to make the map more survivable. Today, we're going to be taking a closer look at Dark Carnival, a 5-map campaign played on patch 2.00.0. This campaign is many people's favorite, and definitely the most iconic in the game. Unbeknownst to all those fans though, it is also the hardest campaign in the game to get a really good time on. This is because while Left 4 Dead 2 is known for having lots of RNG, the campaign with the most random elements by far is Dark Carnival. As we load into the map, we see our one protagonist and 3 meatbags that can only hold us back. Ellis has had enough of Nick's blasphemy and decides to take matters into his own hands. Fueled by his insatiable bloodlust, he bunny hops into the sunset. This campaign is all about getting to the carnival, so we can see the Midnight Riders play their last show. The first of 5 maps is the most execution-based map in the entirety of the game. Due to the mostly flat nature of the level design, it is perfect for bunny hopping. Bunny hopping in Left 4 Dead is a lot harder than other games. This is because every jump needs to be tick perfect. The game checks for updates 30 times every second. In order to maintain 100% of the current velocity, a single jump input must be performed the same tick the player hits the ground. This is because it avoids the speed cap applied on the second tick. Normally, in other Source Engine games, you can map the scroll wheel to jump, and this will allow the player to spam so many jump inputs that it's not possible for them to miss the right tick. However, in Left 4 Dead, this does not work because of the way the game detects inputs. If you were to jump once every tick, then you would actually only end up holding the jump function. You see, in Left 4 Dead, every function has a positive and a negative. In order for the input to be registered multiple times, it must have at least 1 tick of a release so that a negative input can be registered. If you were to do 1 jump insert every other tick, then you could automatically jump perfectly when you hit the ground. If you happen to land on a plus jump input, that is. Since when you land is basically random, this would make it so that every jump is random whether you land on a plus or a minus. This means that the only way to guarantee that you land on a plus jump is to manually enter the jump input on the correct tick. The first map on Dark Carnival is the hardest map in the game to have good movement on by far. This is because it's also the best map for bunny hopping. If you were to hit perfect hops from the beginning of the map to the end, you would have to perform 106 tick perfect inputs sequentially, all while dodging common and special infected spawns. The best time ever recorded on this highway is a 1 minute and 6 second time by Mr. Fails. He hit about 104 of the 106 bunny hops. What's interesting about Charlastic's run is that he only got a 122 on highway, significantly slower than the best time ever and a lot slower than second place as well. But he was going to make up for this with his luck on every other map. And if I'm lucky, you'll subscribe. Once we enter the next map, we're greeted once again by the meatbags, and promptly take them out and head on our way. The second map is also very good for bunny hopping, but not in nearly as many places. There's also some skips along the way that save more time than even hitting perfect bunny hops. Down the path, the speedrunner is going to be looking for a pipe bomb spawn, because they'll need it for map 4, Barns. It's not guaranteed to find one at all, and it's a large factor of RNG in Dark Carnival. Once we arrive at Kittyland, the speedrunner picks up a propane tank to help them with what is known as a common jump. By standing on this tent, the speedrunner baits the common infected to climb up after them, placing a propane tank in a certain spot so that the common infected will climb up on top of that, increasing the height of the climb. If the jump on the common's head while it is climbing, the climbing speed is added to the jumping speed, allowing for a well-timed jump to send the speedrunner skyward and out of bounds. This allows the runner to skip going through the building, up the ladder, and down the slide. Consistency is not in this skip's deck of cards. The climbing animation of the common infected is random. Some animations have better boosts than others, and the commons have to path a certain way to even climb into the right spot. Beyond that, this is one of the hardest common jumps in the whole game. After jumping down and heading towards the carousel, we arrive at the next big random element. If the speedrunner is lucky, they'll get a tank spawn in this general area and be able to perform a tank boost. Where they spawn is totally random, so getting one here is rather rare. Once the player realizes there's a tank, they will try to bait them into this spot so they can punch them as they jump, causing them to fly across the map and land on top of this invisible wall. From here, the speedrunner can drop down and enter the safe room. This skip saves about 20 seconds, and both of the skips in this level are done in Charlie's new world record. Map 3 is where the iconic roller coaster disaster takes place. Once the meatbags show up for round 3, we take them out once more. It's cousins only night in the Tunnel of Love after all. The tunnel is very restricting for bunny hopping, but mostly due to the ways that common infected like to spawn directly in the fucking way. Tanks in this section are especially deadly as they like to get you stuck in the corner and take your lunch money. Heading through this blasted out hole of love, the speedrunner does some slight parkour to skip the stairs, then heads down into the abyss. This hole kills more runs than almost anything in Dark Carnival, because when going fast, there's no time to check around and wait to see if there are threats. We just yeet our soon-to-be dead carcass into the thing and pray we don't get jockeyed. Finally, making our way out of that makeout fest, we head into the coaster and do some more parkour. This roller coaster usually is a panic event that the player has to wait to end and then follow the tracks in a roundabout fashion to get to the safe room. Instead, the speedrunner climbs right up the scaffolding and skips the line entirely. Then some parkour happens and bam, we're at the safe room. For a more in-depth look at how this skip works, watch my How Speedrunners Skip the Coaster video. Finally, into map 4, the most infamous of the carnival maps. Disposing of some meatbags once more, we arrive at the single most petty RNG instance in the whole game. Sometimes the game decides that it's just not vibing with you today and spawns a single gate fence here. If it is there, then the speedrunner needs to do a common jump off this tree root and onto the tent. Getting the gate here loses at least 10 seconds, but the game isn't even remotely done clowning around as it has only just put on its Jinko jeans. With the Faygo freshly drank, we arrive at the panic event that can be skipped entirely. Because this sip is so hard, only one run on the leaderboards has actually done it. This is being the world record, of course. Its difficulty and the amount of random factors involved leads Dark Carnival to be one of the most luck-dependent maps in the entire game. This is what we needed the pipe bomb for, but we also need to get a charger spawn. Chargers have a roughly 1/3 chance to spawn. It's important to note special infected only spawn in 35 seconds after you leave the safe room. Then, they have a chance to spawn periodically depending on a few factors. Where they spawn is also random, but they try not to spawn in areas where they can be seen. For this skip, we need a charger to spawn on the other side of the fence by the safe room. While we wait for that to happen, the speedrunner shoots this table into a spot near the fence. While standing on the table, they then bait the charger into climbing up in front of them and charging into them, but not before throwing a pipe bomb at the ground. If timed correctly, the charger will still on the other side of the fence grab the player, pulling them through the invisible wall. At this point, the pipe bomb will explode, freeing them from the grab. This skip saves about 40 seconds and is the only implementation in an actual run of using a charger to skip an invisible wall in the entire game. What every other runner that isn't insane does is bunny hop their way over to these floodlights and then climb on top of them doing some minor parkour to skip going around and on later patches doing a common boost onto the roof. Then they go from the roof to starting the crescendo event, making sure to common boost into a more safe location where enemies cannot path to them. While the skip may save about 40 seconds, it is also a lot safer. It's not guaranteed, but you almost always get a tank on bars, and even if you don't, the run to the safe room while the doors finally open is daunting even on easy. Runners normally use a Molotov or a boomer bile to make this part easier, but those are both RNG drops, and a boomer bile can only be found on map 1. If there is a tank, then he will die if the player can successfully get into the safe spot before the tank can kill them. If tanks go long enough without being able to track the player or aggro, they will despawn. After the brief wait, the runner heads into the finale, and it turns out ICP is playing here. Loading into map 5, we spare our teammates having to listen to Juggalo homies, so we take them out for good. In individual level runs, you would just outright kill them here, but for full game runs, Dark Carnival serves an important purpose. In main campaigns, it's the first campaign we do so that we can perform a trick that saves time across the whole run. In this section of the safe room, if there are players downed here and the finale is started, the players will then be kicked from the server, even when playing in single player. The game runs on a local server, and the bots can be kicked from the server for the rest of the run if they're placed here and the finale is started. In main campaigns, we only kick 2 of them because it saves time, but we still need 1 bot for other tricks later in the run. In all campaigns, however, though, the route lets you kick every bot. If you vote to change maps instead of going to the main menu, the server you're playing on does not change or reset. This allows you to play other campaigns without the additional bots and without breaking any of the rules of the speedrun. This trick also works on the host, crashing the server if you are on an actual multiplayer game. Fortunately, this bug was patched out in the last stand update of the game. For holdout finales, it's important to understand how they work, so that I can accurately get across how random they can actually be. When the finale is started, a horde is called. When that horde is killed, a tank is called, and then when that tank dies, it repeats the process one more time. In total, that's 2 hordes and 2 tanks. It's not based on a timer, so the faster you kill the enemies, the faster it ends. In single player, killing the enemies can be very slow, so we use what is colloquially called a god spot. This is a location on the map that does not have nav meshing. Nav meshing is what allows the game's AI to direct pathing. So when standing on top of a spot with no or bad nav meshing, the AI gets confused and just stands still. After a few moments of standing still, they will then despawn. This also works if tanks, as we saw on the previous map. The further away an enemy spawns from the player, the faster they will despawn. This is where the RNG comes into play. Horde spawns in packs, and these packs spawn in many locations. If they spawn close to you, then you have to kill them manually, and if they spawn far away, then they'll quickly despawn. Tanks, on the other hand, you want to spawn in locations that they can see you and run at you, but far enough away that they'll still despawn. When tanks die while running, their animation is much faster and saves about 5 seconds. Tanks also have a chance to spawn in locations where they can still track you, like on the roof for example. This is the worst case scenario, as you have to manually kill them, which loses lots of time. When ICP plays their final song and the helicopter arrives, it can go to one of 2 sides. It's completely random and it has a 50-50 chance to go to either side. If it arrives on this side of the map, the player can do a trick known as coin toss. This is where they gamble that they will be on the correct side. When arriving at this side, the helicopter's active hitbox for the end level trigger appears for a brief moment right as it spawns. Using audio cues, the runner can tell if it's on the correct side, then move into the hitbox, ending the level about 15 seconds early. This is a very risky strategy because it requires the player to leave the god spot, leaving them wide open where specials and even tanks can get them. On top of that, it's only a 50% chance to be on the correct side, and if it isn't, you just vote to switch maps early and then you'll leave the campaign without actually completing it, invalidating any runs. If you vote too late and it's on the correct side, then you won't be able to vote at all, making the bot kicking method useless and losing time for the rest of the run. In the end, there's tons of RNG in this campaign. It starts with the most execution heavy map in the whole game, followed by 2 of the most finicky skips. 1/3 chance to save 40 seconds, then the gathering of the juggalos of RNG memes in the finale. To top it all off, right at the end, there is a make or break 15-second time save that's only a 50% chance. The current world record is a 942 by Charlastic. He only had a 122 highway, but he got both common jumps and the tank boost on map 2. No fence on map 4 and is the first person to hit the charger skip in an actual run. He also got coin toss and no bad tank spawns in the finale. This run is a perfect example of why Dark Carnival is so hard to get a good time on. While Charlastic is arguably one of the best in the game, having world record in a lot of categories, his gameplay in this one was not phenomenal. Second place doesn't get the tank boost on map 2 or the charger skip, and is only 19 seconds slower. Just the sheer fact that he got everything in a row like this was phenomenal, and the record will probably go unbeaten for a long time unless someone decides that they want to put it all together and combine amazing bunny hops with excellent RNG. But that grind will be truly insane. I want to give a huge shout out to Charlastic for being an absolutely cracked cracker, as well as helping me with recording for this video. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters who are phenomenally lovely people. Thanks so much for watching.